Robert Plank Show, episode 397. Quiet Light Brokerage. Buy and hold or flip e-commerce, Amazon FBA, software as a service, and content websites with Mark Daoust. Hey everyone, and thanks for listening. We're talking right now with Mark Daoust, and he's the co-founder of Quiet Light Brokerage. And Mark founded an online publication and grew its subscriber base to over 220,000 members. And Mark leveraged his knowledge of SEO, marketing, and technology to start Quiet Light Brokerage as a conduit for entrepreneurs seeking to market, buy, and sell internet businesses. And Mark's firm has helped hundreds of entrepreneurs maximize the value of their e-commerce, their software as a service, and their content-based businesses and successfully exit them. And Mark is a sought-out speaker at conferences. He's a regular contributor to Entrepreneur, and he's been featured in Forbes and Huffington Post. Lots of great stuff. So, Mr. Mark, glad to be talking to you today.
I'm glad to have you. Glad to be on the show. Thanks for having me.
I'm glad to have you, and I love this idea of buying and selling web properties. I used to think that the only way to really do that would be to, save up enough money for a house or to spend 5 or 10 years making an app or making a website and hoping for a big payday. But I've slowly kind of seen more and more of this world of some people will kind of buy these web properties at a discount, load them up or find some new traffic source or find some new way to breathe life into it and then have it, go back to the marketplace and sell them again. And so this is a really exciting topic for me. So can you kind of walk us through in your own words, what this whole website brokering, buying and selling thing's all about?
Sure, absolutely. Well, we started the company 10 years ago, and it's definitely changed over 10 years. But there's a lot of different types of buyers out there and people doing this. There are some people who want to buy and hold. And those people are really looking for high quality properties, high quality websites that are established. They've already been proven. They're making money, and they want to acquire those businesses and run a really nice lifestyle business. I think that's probably the biggest benefit to having any sort of online business or website that's profitable is the lifestyle that you can have with it. Then you have the people that you were alluding to, and those would be the website flippers. Right, the people that are coming in, they're buying sites at a discount, and they find new traffic sources, or they find some sort of efficiency that they can bring to the business, and they load that up and run it for a couple of years, and then they turn around and sell it. These are people who are really specialized in something. They know how to grow online properties. They know what they're looking for. And there's some people making some good money doing that as well. So it really does vary depending on what you want to do. But there's a lot of opportunity for buyers out there.
Super great. So there's the buy and hold people who, they just want to buy something that's already existing, and then the flippers who want to make the big payday. So these days, have you seen more of one or the other, or do you have a personal favorite?
My personal favorite is by far the build and hold. And the reason that I like that, and I tell people this all the time, financially, you're going to make more money by hanging on to a profitable online business. It just almost every single time you're going to make more money in the long run. And it's so hard to get these businesses profitable, which is why buying an online business makes sense in many cases. Because if you're just starting something up from scratch, you might have a great idea, but executing those ideas is a lot harder than it always seems. So if you find something that's turning a consistent profit, boy, I like to hang on to that personally. The exception that I would say to that would be somebody whose personality is that where they have a really short attention span. They really love that sort of that grind of I'm going to take something, I'm going to fix it up, I'm going to make it look really great, and then I'm going to go ahead and sell it. That would be the difference. Where it might make more sense to flip those types of sites.
Okay, great. And I'm so curious about that because that buy and hold strategy, I'm really conflicted on it because it's almost like my personality wants to say that sounds like a great idea. I want to just kind of accumulate these properties and have them, pay out money month after month. But then so that's kind of what my personality wants. But then what my maybe brain or my common sense wants to say is that maybe some of these websites, maybe the traffic might dry up, or maybe the software running it, if it's a software as a service, maybe might break or might need some new programmers to get something fixed. And so am I crazy in thinking that? Am I alone in thinking that maybe I have some hesitation about buying websites with the fear that they might break soon or just kind of dry up in some way?
No, I don't think that I don't think that's unfounded by any means. I mean, anyone who's been working online for any period of time, and I've been doing this now for 20 years, online in some capacity, this environment changes and changes really, really quickly. And I've seen some people that were, 10 years ago were making lots of money, and today they aren't making the same amount of money at all. So I don't think that that's unfounded by any means or any stretch of the imagination. But the reason I like the buy and the hold strategy is that if you find something that's going to have a good 5, 7, 8 year time span, chances are very, very good that you're going to make more money just by hanging on over that time period rather than selling right away. And you know what we're seeing too today is that more and more businesses are reaching that double-digit birthday level. I mean, we've dealt with sites that are approaching 20 years old. I personally actually just acquired a business that just celebrated its 20th anniversary online. It was started back in the 90s, and it's still going strong. So there are online businesses that really do stand up to the test of time. And frankly, those businesses that won't stand up to the test of time, I'll tell you what, buyers have gotten smart. Most of them know that, so you're not going to be able to sell it anyways, or at least not for very much money. So those are all the reasons that I really like the buy and hold strategy. I think in the long run it makes more sense, and we know more of what makes a sustainable business.
Okay, and so do you have any kind of criteria or checklist for looking at some of these possible businesses to buy and kind of really quickly deciding whether to grab it or not?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I think the thing that if we just look back at the history of the internet, we're actually publishing an article on this fairly soon, looking back at some of the big historical markers in the world of the internet and how it impacted valuations. I'd say one of the biggest problems that we've run into in the past would be these major updates or these major events where single points of failure with a business were exposed. The classic example of that would be the Panda or Penguin updates. And those, for any of your listeners that may not be familiar, which I'm sure most of them are, but for those updates, Google changed their algorithm, and a lot of websites that were following known best practices at the time fell out of favor in the rankings. And I saw businesses go from 7-figure valuations to very low 6-figure or high 5-figure valuations literally within a period of weeks because they lost all that traffic. And that was because they depended so much on that natural search engine traffic in just one single point of their business. So the first thing I always advise people when they're looking to buy is take a look for those single points of failure, or also look for those market dependencies. And cottage industries. I'm not a big fan of cottage industries or fad-based websites. So a cottage industry would be, if you remember a few years ago, you could buy, you can still do it, but you could buy 1,000 or 10,000 Twitter followers or Facebook fans. And this was an industry that was actually doing pretty well. But now people understand that that's really not that effective anymore. And the other problem with that sort of business is it depends on the success of Twitter or Facebook, which of course both companies are doing okay. So that's a little bit broad brush and painting here. The first thing, again, just to get back to the main point here, avoid those single points of failure in a business. And if you find something that's fairly stable, has lots of different revenue streams, and has some longevity to it as far as the business itself, and is not dependent on the success of another company, well, that's usually a good sign that the business is going to continue on.
Perfect. So basically find a business that has somewhat of a solid foundation. So if the Amazon account or the Google AdSense account or whatever was shut down, there would be other forms of revenue for that business just as backup.
Absolutely. Amazon is one of those things that I'm trying to sound the alarm bells for a bit. And we sell a lot of Amazon-based stores right now. And I know all the brokerages out there are. There's a lot of people who have built up Amazon businesses, and they're doing really good revenue and really good earnings from these businesses. But you need to expand beyond that. This is a classic sign that I think, this is my prediction, hopefully it's not true, but I think that a lot of these people who have Amazon stores could one day be hurt because they're dependent on Amazon and Amazon's marketplace and the rules that they set. So that would be, in my opinion, the modern day equivalent of people depending entirely on natural search engine rankings, which happened a lot in the late 2000 aughts. and early teens. I think Amazon is that sort of risk right now. So exactly like you said, don't rely just on Amazon. Don't rely just on AdSense. Make sure that you have other alternatives out there.
So if you see one of these web properties and you see that maybe they're completely reliant on, say, like an Amazon seller sort of situation, so would you pass on that offer, or would you buy the offer and then hook it up to Walmart.com or get a Shopify? Would you pass on the web property if it didn't fit, or would you buy it knowing that you were going to fix it up yourself?
Well, me personally, I don't buy e-commerce anymore. Now we sell lots of e-commerce businesses for people as a brokerage. But personally, I'm not. I just don't do well with e-commerce myself. I'm a fan of it. I'm just not very good at it. I bought one e-commerce business and absolutely hated it. So I've made a personal decision not to do it anymore. But what I would advise to buyers, and I do advise this to buyers because there are Amazon stores being sold. And some of them are dependent entirely on Amazon. And our advice is usually pretty straightforward. Start to build out your own website, hook it up to Walmart.com and Jet.com. You're not going to get the same volume through any of the other channels, but at least it's going to give you some stability. If Amazon drastically changes the rules, there's lots of reasons to think that Amazon won't, but it's still just good best practices, in my opinion, to spread out that risk a bit. Build out your own website. That's one step towards building your own brand, which really is the best solution, in my opinion.
Awesome. So might as well hedge your bets. Hedge your bets, I should say. And so
Absolutely.
you said in there that you don't like e-commerce. It's just not fun for you. It's not your personality. Is that something that you recommend? Like, do you recommend that if someone likes a certain type of site that they go and they buy like in that same category, or do you recommend they kind of try to diversify, so to speak?
I think you buy what you're good at, and I'm just not good at e-commerce. There was a lot of details there working with vendors that, for example, that I was not good at. I wasn't good at the logistics side of that. So I recommend buy what you're good at. If you're really good at SEO, find a site that really could benefit from SEO. If you're really good at conversion optimization, that's going to be what you want to do. If you know how to develop an app or have an app developed by managing a team of developers, look at a SaaS product. Find what you're really good at and really focus on that. I dealt with a client last year around this time, and she was phenomenal at operations. She knew how to set up a fairly complex operation and make it simple. So e-commerce worked great for her, and she proved it. And she was a client that was selling. She proved it by growing her business into a pretty substantial business. So she had bought it when it was really small and grew it by over 10 times easily. So buy what you're good at and know what you're good at. And that, in my opinion, should be where your focus is.
Okay, fair enough. And so, I always hear these different interesting stories about these, websites that have been bought and sold, but I'm not sure if I've ever seen in one place, like maybe just like a list of like the 4 or 5 categories, right? Because there's the e-commerce category and like an app or a SaaS or like an SEO. So, I mean, in your head, are there like just like a short list of like different types of websites to be bought and sold? Because I'm not sure if I've seen just like a really quick sort of categorization of those sites.
Sure. I mean, I think we could say something like a tree, right? You can get some broad categories, but there's going to be lots of subcategories under that. I would put e-commerce as one very big tree branch, and understanding that, look, this thing branches out in a lot of different places because you have people that are going so far as manufacturing their own product and own trademarks and brands for that product. And then you have on the other end of the spectrum, people who are simply drop shipping where they never even see the inventory that they're selling. So that's a pretty big branch, but we'll just say e-commerce would be one branch. SaaS would be another. Lead generation, which is not nearly as big as it used to be, but is still very profitable for those that are in it. Content would be another type of business. I'm not sure if I said SaaS, but I would say SaaS, and then I would put subscription right next to that as well. And subscription can be a pretty broad category. And then, unfortunately, as much as we want to have a nice, clean break between these categories, you have your hybrid models, right? Because you have your SaaS. I'm sorry. You have like your subscription-based businesses, but you have some subscription-based businesses that are sending out products every month, and these box of the month sort of clubs. So that kind of is a hybrid model of those two. But those are the categories I usually think of when I'm thinking about online businesses.
Okay, great. So e-commerce, SaaS, lead generation, content, and subscription. And so in your like portfolio of sites that you buy, do you gravitate towards like one or a few of these categories you mentioned?
Well, so again, I don't actually buy that many. I just bought my first business in probably 4 years, just this year. And I spend most of my time working with people who want to sell, and helping them find buyers for their businesses. It's a lot of work to buy a business, especially initially. And I've really been focused on building Quiet Light Brokerage. As far as the businesses that I personally like, though, I really do look primarily at content sites or subscription-based businesses. I'm not great at SaaS, so I don't spend a lot of time there either. Content is really what I've built my skill set on in the past.
Okay, so when you're looking to buy a content site, are there specific things that you're looking from that site that you aren't looking at other types of sites?
Sure. It really depends on the site itself, but I'm looking a lot more at the quality of the content. What do they have in terms of assets right now? Have they worked on the mailing list portion and the email marketing portion, and what does that look like? Those are some of the basic things that I'm looking at. Also, the uniqueness of the content. I'll tell you the business last business I bought before this year actually happened to be the very first business I started. And in the lead in where you introduced me, you talked about the email list that I built with my previous company, up to 220,000 subscribers. Well, I sold that business way back when, I think now 12 years ago, and probably 4 years ago. The person that bought it from me came to me and said, "Hey, I'm thinking of selling the company. Would you help me sell it?" I said, "Sure, absolutely. It's kind of nice to be able to sell the company that I started and sold, and now I get to sell it again. This time as a broker." And so we sold it to somebody, and he bought it, and he came back to me about 4 or 5 months later and said, "You know what? I thought I was going to like online business, but I really don't like it. I want to sell it again." And I told him, I said, "Hey, I wouldn't recommend doing that just yet. Wait a little while. I think you're going to take a pretty bad hit by selling so quickly." I said, "I get it. I want to be out. I'm willing to sell it for X," which was far less than what he had bought it for. When he said that, I told him, I said, "Well, I'll tell you what, I'll buy it from you. If you're willing to sell it for that much money, I'll acquire it." And for me, it was kind of a nostalgia buy, right? Because it was a business that I started and was able to sell, and then sell again and buy again. And I ended up running it for about a year, and then I just decided to turn out the lights on that business. It was making some money, not a lot of money. To your question as to what do I look for, the reason that I didn't want to continue running that company, it just wasn't very unique as far as the content was concerned. And I looked at what other people were doing in the space, and people were doing some really good content in the space. So in order to get it to that level, I just decided it wasn't worth the effort, and I was happy to shut it down. I was happy to be the one to turn the lights out on it as well. So that's, again, another bit of a roundabout answer to your question, but uniqueness of content would be one of the main things I look for.
Okay, and so if someone is just kind of looking at your guys' marketplace and looking for a website to buy, I mean, what do you recommend that they do their first time around? Like you mentioned before that you should play to your strengths. If if you know e-commerce, go with that, or if you know an app, go with that. And so if someone is like, okay, well, I keep hearing about this whole like buying and selling web property thing. I want to buy and hold something. Like, what do you recommend they look for exactly? And do you recommend that this first time around that they like stay within a certain budget? I'm just because I'm just asking, like, if someone says, all right, I'm looking at your directory, I'm not really sure what to do from here. What do you think they should start doing?
Yeah, so great question. And we get people that contact us all the time saying, "Hey, I think I want to buy. Do you have any advice?" So my advice varies a bit on the person's experience. If you're completely new to the internet world, yes, buy small. Don't buy big. Buy small and buy with the idea that you're probably buying an education more than anything else. If you have experience and are pretty competent in the online world, let's say that you've been working in the online world for a long time, maybe you've started something successfully. At that point, I think it makes more sense to buy big because you're probably going to spend the same amount of time But you'll obviously make more money and you have more room for error in case you make any sort of mistake. So as far as the buy big versus buy small, really depends on your experience level. If there's any discomfort there, buy small. It's just not worth it to lose the money on your first acquisition. The second thing that I would recommend is take the time to really get to know the marketplace. Request information from us or from other brokers on the different listings for sale. Get familiar with how information is put together and presented, and really start to kick the tires on some of these things to see what you actually want and what gets you excited versus not. There are way, way more buyers in this space than there are sellers. So it's really competitive. When you get a good, solid business up for sale, it can go easily within a few days under offer. And in order to really know what you're doing, you need to, and be able to act quickly, you need to take the time to really familiarize yourself with the industry and with how information is put together. I know a lot of people who have been looking for a year plus for a good business to buy. So I would highly recommend just take the time to educate yourself in the marketplace, and it'll pay off when you are eventually able to pull the trigger on something.
Okay, so with all the, well, like the, you have all these listings that are currently, open or out there, and you've brokered a lot of these other sales of websites and things like that. Do any of these websites jump out at you? Like, are there any websites that are just like, they seem so cool and like you wish you'd bought it if only you had the time, or anything like that jump out at you?
Oh, absolutely, that happens all the time. It's one of the problems of this space, right? It's very easy to look at some of these things and think, why am I doing what I'm doing? Maybe I should just buy this individual company. But I learned pretty early on that the opportunities that I personally should or want to pursue are pretty limited, and I need to focus my efforts on Quiet Light Brokerage. So yeah, I mean those things happen all the time. I see great opportunities across my desk, and some people doing some really, really cool things. Probably one of the best benefits of owning this company, honestly, is getting to know both the sellers who have started these amazing businesses and the buyers who are able to take these and grow them even further.
So any interesting examples of that? Any examples of like a site that had like a really good idea, or of a buyer who picked something up and just really ran with it?
Yeah, I mean, I can't tell you the sites exactly because of confidentiality agreements, but I can tell you I had one client who started he bought a directory, a pretty well-known web directory. This was years ago, back when directories were way more relevant than they are today. He bought it for about $30,000, and he ran it for what was it? It was 14 months, 14 or 15 months before he came to me and said that he wanted to sell it. And we ended up selling it for $375,000.
Wow.
So in the course of a year, he made $120,000 in terms of just earnings from the business, plus $375,000 for a total of a $35,000 investment on that. And I've dealt with a few people who have had similar turnarounds. I had a client who bought an e-commerce business for, I think he bought his for about $40,000. We ended up selling it for about $1.2 million about 5 years later. So you can see just how quickly some of these guys have been able to turn these businesses and grow them and see some pretty phenomenal returns. That's not too unusual, to be honest, to see the people selling have stories like that.
That is super cool. I mean, it sounds very fast paced, and like there's quite an upside to it. And so if someone if they've heard our conversation today, they hear that Quiet Light Brokerage is great, and they go to the website, is there like a course they can buy, or a newsletter or something like that, to kind of get them up to speed as far as what they need to know about buying and selling these websites?
Sure. So we have a whole bunch of information on our blog, which is linked up from the main page. We also have a section called resources, which is some of the more basic information. Plus, we're all really accessible. Anyone that works at Quiet Light Brokerage as an advisor, we're all entrepreneurs. We've all bought, we've all sold, we've all started our own online enterprises and significant size enterprises. So we just tell people, reach out to us, contact us, call us, email us. We love to have the conversations. And frankly, you're going to get a very wide level of experience depending on who you talk to. I'm the founder of the company. My business partner, Joe Valley, was a client of mine before he came on board as an advisor and before he became a partner. My most tenured advisor is Jason Yelowitz. He has a history of raising 8 figures through venture capital. He was also a client of mine before he became an advisor. In fact, most of the people that work at Quiet Light Brokerage were clients before they started up with us. So there's this really wide range of experience among all of us at Quiet Light. We love talking about this stuff, and would love to have a conversation with anyone that has even a passing interest in this.
Super awesome. And it sounds like, yeah, not only did some of your clients become your team members, but there was also like that story where you sold the website and then you wanted help selling it again. So it sounds like you guys have really good customer service and really good follow-up if these relationships are turning into other relationships. So great stuff.
Yeah. I mean, that's kind of the goal, right? We want to help people out, and we really do enjoy it. I like to think of the company as a place where entrepreneurs get to go, and it's kind of a club that we get to all participate in this. Just because it is fun to do the deals, it's fun to help other entrepreneurs sell their companies, and for those that are looking to buy, help those people find a good property to invest in.
Super great. So if you guys listening, if you have a website that you might want to sell or are thinking about selling or definitely looking to sell, then go to Quiet Light Brokerage and contact them. Tell them your situation, tell them what you have, and you can have a chit chat there. And then if you're on the other end of things, and if you're looking to buy a web property, if you're not sure where to start, or you see what they have in the marketplace, or you've read some of the blog posts, then also by all means contact them and let them know your situation. And what do you want them to know specifically, Mark? Like, should they tell like their budget or what kind of website they're looking to buy? Or if someone is reaching out to your team looking to buy, are there certain things that you'd like to know from them?
Absolutely. Just feel free to reach out to us directly by email or call, and then tell us, the general size that you're looking for. Maybe your background would be very helpful as well.
All right, perfect. So, and that's easy to find on the website, right? Is there like a contact tab or something like that?
Yep, there's a contact tab. Absolutely.
Super great. So Quiet Light Brokerage, go to that contact tab and let them know your situation, let them know your background to see if a deal can be made. And you've heard that they've made deals of all shapes and sizes, all types of different websites, all kinds of budgets, all kinds of buyers and sellers. So if you're looking to either hit the ground running, if you don't want to start from scratch, to wait all the years it takes to make a website profitable, why not buy an already existing website? That way you can kind of have the lifestyle they want. You just buy these assets that are already, they've all been troubleshooted for you. And then likewise, if you're the kind of person that really wants to put the pedal to the metal and make a lot of money, then you can also look into this buying and selling. So whether you're a buy-sell person or a buy and hold person, then Quiet Light Brokerage is the team that you need to contact and should contact to make big money flipping websites or buying and hold websites. So make sure to go to quietlightbrokerage.com. And is there any other places people should go or any other actions they should take today, Mark, or just quietlightbrokerage.com?
Just quietlightbrokerage.com. That works perfectly.
Perfect. So we'll see you in there, quietlightbrokerage.com. And thanks, Mr. Mark, for stopping by and share what you had to share with us today. Subscribe to us right now while it's still fresh on your mind at robertplank.com/iTunes, or just search Robert Plank in your iTunes app.